guys, welcome back. Like I mentioned in my last video, I'm catching up on a few tags that I've been tagged in, and I meant to record this at the same time I record the other one, but once I got my books moved down here and got them put on the shelf, they're not even close to being organized, but they're on the shelf. I needed a few business days to recuperate after that. So it is a few days later, and now I'm going to be doing the Spring is in the Air tag. So I was tagged by Anna over at the Reading Retriever, and I'm gonna leave her information down in the description so you can go check her out. I love her channel. I've watched several of her videos now, and she also has a very adorable dog, Tucker, so go over there and give him some love too. All right, let's go ahead and get into it. The first prompt is Spring Chicks, and it says, name a book that made you feel warm and fuzzy. And I have the perfect book for this. So I actually just finished this. This is the Ornithologist Field Guide to Love. This was cozy, it was cute, it was funny, it was romantic. The main characters, Beth and Devin, are both trying to capture this rare bird because whoever captured it is going to become Birder of the Year. And the entire field of ornithologists are going after this bird. And so a lot of hijinks ensue, but Beth and Devin will end up teaming up to get the bird. And along the way, they are falling for each other, and it's just so sweet and cozy and romantic. And I am not a person that can highlight in my books, but I definitely would like to reread this one and at least tab it, because there were so many times, so many different lines in here that I was like, oh, that is just beautiful. I want to be able to pull that out and talk about that. So definitely we'll start reading with some page flags so that I can do that, because I definitely had the urge to do that in this one. Next is April Showers or Spring Showers, and it says, name a book that is set near, in, or on the water, or that has the word water in the title. And I'm gonna cheat a little bit on this one because it's technically not water. So I'm gonna say Tress of the Emerald Sea. Although the Emerald Sea is not made of water, it is made of spores. But water is important because if water touches the spores, they'll actually like sprout. And so they have to be very careful not to get the spores like into their mouth or nose or eyes or anything, because the moisture from their body will make them sprout, and it will like grow a big tree thing through you and kill you. So having said that, this is actually a pretty cozy story as well. So Tress, our main character, lives on an island, and she is friends with the son of like a nobleman that lives there. However, the dad does not want the two of them together because he sees that, they're kind of maybe a little bit more than friends. So he takes his family and like leaves the island, and the boy is captured by a like sorceress. And so Tress decides that she is going to sneak off of the island, because that's the first thing, is they can't just leave the island. So she's gonna have to figure out a way to sneak off of the island and go try to rescue him from this sorceress. And I think the thing that I most liked about this book is she has this notion of who she is, and she thinks that she's timid, and she thinks that she's quiet and anxious, and she thinks that she's all of these things, but really and truly she's just never been anywhere other than her little island. And so she's never had life experiences. In a way, she's almost a totally different person by the end of the book, but really and truly she's just herself by the end of the book. And I thought this one was adorable. This is Brandon Sanderson's answer to The Princess Bride, which is another book that I loved, another movie that I love. So I definitely think this one would be worth checking out if you have not read it already. It's definitely in the spring vibes, even though it technically doesn't have water. So, my bad. The next prompt is spring break, and it says, talk about a time where you took a break from reading and why. And I've really tried thinking about this, but I can't think of a time where I took an extended break from reading, because nowadays, like, reading is my, like, center, you know, that, like, that's what I do to de-stress, and, you know, that's my form of entertainment. I come on YouTube and I watch, you know, booktubers, but I'm typically not watching TV or movies at this point in my life. If I'm getting entertainment, I'm reading, or I'm watching videos about reading. But I can definitely think of times where I've had days that I didn't read, and the reason was I was doing something with my family. Now, having said that, we have gone on week-long vacations, and I take multiple books with me so that I have something to read while I'm there. But there have definitely been days where we go on outings and we do things, and so then I would be taking a break from reading in order to spend that time with my family. The next prompt is Swallow's Homecoming, and it says to name a book or an author that you always come back to for comfort. And the first book that came to mind for me was The Hobbit. And the reason that it came to mind, I think, is I sometimes when I can't sleep will find the audiobook. The audiobook is on YouTube if, you know, you search for it. I sometimes put on the audiobook and just listen to it while I fall asleep. It's a classic for me. It's one of my favorite books of all time. And so I definitely would say that I come back to this one for comfort. Of course, The Hobbit follows the story of Bilbo Baggins as Gandalf comes around making trouble, as he does, invites a bunch of dwarves to crash his house, you know, have a party, and they convince him to become a burglar to go help them steal back their home and their treasure from a dragon. And he agrees to it. And so at 50 years of age, Bilbo Baggins takes off with a company of dwarves and a wizard and has a bunch of fun adventures. You also see the infamous ring for the first time in here, and you find out how it became in Bilbo's possession. I definitely think this is another good pick for spring because the story starts in the spring when they leave. Obviously, it takes longer than just one season. This is definitely something that I would consider a comfort read. But I can't not talk about Harry Potter, especially Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. So when you're talking about comfort and you're talking about cozy and you're talking about, like, I guess nostalgia, that's number one for me. The entire series, yes, but the first book is just kind of a different tone than the rest, even two. A lot of people say 3 or 4 is where the story kind of starts getting a little bit darker. The characters are starting to deal with bigger issues, deeper issues. But definitely number 1 is just a light, fun read compared to the rest. Also, this just represented a nostalgic time in my life, I guess. I think I've mentioned before how I feel like my generation's identity, a part of that is this series. The Pottermania, the going to the midnight release parties, the movies coming out. So, like, that was most of my childhood, most of my teen years were taken up by these books and or movies. And so I definitely feel like they have a special place in my heart, and I do definitely come back to them, especially this first one, as a comfort read. So Harry has lived most of his life with his aunt and his uncle and his cousin, and they are neglectful at best, abusive at worst. He gets bullied by his cousin, and he just kind of lives in this kind of miserable existence until he starts to get these mysterious letters, and he learns that he is actually a wizard, and he goes to Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. So he finally starts to make friends. He doesn't feel like such an outcast. He is fitting in for the first time in his life, and he's actually enjoying life for the first time in his life. However, not everything is as good as it seems when he and his friends stumble upon a mystery, and he has a confrontation at the end of the book that puts him in quite a bit of danger. Definitely, if you have never read the Harry Potter series, you should. This is an amazing book, an amazing series. Definitely give it a go. The book is much better than the movies. The movies are not bad. They're fine. But the books are much, much better. The next prompt is Blooms, and it says to name a book that started slowly but blossomed to be one of your favorite reads. And I wasn't really sure about this one. The only book that I could really think of was A Court of Thorns and Roses. And this definitely started out slow because I think it took me months to read this, and that is not like me. However, in my last video, I talked to you about the year where I was like not able to read anything heavy because I just had so much stress going on in my life. I'm pretty sure it was either during that year or like coming out of that phase of my life where I picked this up. And it was kind of my first foray into like the romantasy genre, coming from like just reading fantasy. So I definitely had to adjust to it. And then also I kind of feel like the series is one of those that starts out slow and then kind of like blooms. Most people, I feel like maybe the first book is their least favorite. Maybe actually I shouldn't say that. Probably the last two books might be a contender. I definitely felt like the first book was nowhere near as strong as the second or third books. It took me a while before I finally got into this one, but then once I got into the second book, then I couldn't put the series down. In this book, you have Feyre, who lives with her two sisters and her father in the mortal realm, but they live very close to the world of the Fae. There's like this division between them, and the Fae are very dangerous. In the same vein as like Katniss in the Hunger Games, like she has to go out and hunt for food for her family so they don't starve. She's actually the youngest sister, and her father's basically just in like a state of depression and like can't go out and work or whatever. He's going through it. And the two older sisters, the oldest does not get along with Feyre, and the middle sister, they are both very protective of, because she's just like very sweet and innocent, and she really and truly gives like youngest sister vibes. The whole like dynamic of these sisters is weird because the youngest acts like the oldest acts like the middle child, and the middle child acts like the youngest. It's crazy. But anyways, so in this, Feyre is hunting and she kills a wolf in the woods, and it turns out that she maybe should not have done that. She ends up being taken prisoner by one of the Fae, and she ends up falling in love with him because, you know, that's what one does, right? So without giving too much away, the best thing that I can say about this book is you have to get through it to get to the second book. That's all I'm gonna say about it. So it was definitely a series that started out slow and then blossomed into something much better. All right, so the next prompt is Eggs in a Basket, and that is 3 books you want to read this spring. So definitely one that I would like to get to soon is When the Moon Hatched. This is one that I tried in one of my prompts for the Magical Readathon this past month, and I ended up not choosing this one, but I definitely want to get to it. And then the other 2 are going to be books 4 and 5 of the Dungeon Crawler Carl series. These are some pretty big books. These are getting kind of big. So book number 4 is The Gate of the Feral Gods, and number 5 is The Butcher's Masquerade. And I am loving this series so much, and I cannot wait to read these. This is probably actually my next read that I'm gonna pick up like as soon as I get done with this video. So the next prompt is Green Pastures, and that is a classic that never gets old. So I definitely could have gone again with The Hobbit. Since I'm not going with The Hobbit though, I'm gonna say The Lord of the Rings. The Lord of the Rings trilogy technically is one story that was broken up into 3. So I'm gonna consider that my 1 book for this prompt. And again, if you don't know, this follows Frodo Baggins, and he inherits the ring from Bilbo, and Gandalf realizes that this ring is dangerous and needs to be destroyed. So Frodo, along with a few of his friends, will end up going on a journey to figure out what they need to do with this ring. And then from there, they are going to travel to try to destroy it. So again, if you've watched the movies, they are fairly close. I would say they're probably some of the most faithful adaptations, but even they're not like 100%. So definitely you should still check out the book. The Lord of the Rings is definitely a classic that I will continue to reread until I can no longer read for whatever reason. However, I also think that I should probably include Alice's Adventures in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass. You definitely need to get the one with both, because if you're like me and you're wanting to read about what happened in the movie, you actually have to read both, because some of the characters from the movie are actually in the Through the Looking Glass book. So this is my MinaLima version. This is my favorite version. The artwork is a little bit weird, but I just love the interactive pieces. Again, these books are what inspired my reading journal with all of the interactive pieces. I just love being able to go in and interact with the pieces as I read. Of course, Alice's Adventures in Wonderland follows the story of Alice, who is listening to her sister read and sees a rabbit wearing a waistcoat and trousers and a pocket watch. And so she chases him down the rabbit hole and ends up in Wonderland and has all of these fun adventures with different characters, but then also ends up running afoul of the Queen of Hearts, who would like to take off her head. So the entire time she is trying to figure out how to get back home. And this is one of my all-time favorite books, maybe even my all-time favorite book. Again, the movie was I had 2 favorite Disney movies, and they were Beauty and the Beast and Alice in Wonderland. And that just makes this, I think, one of my favorite reads. Next up is pollen, and that means a book or author you're allergic to. And I don't necessarily know that I'm allergic to this book, but I'm gonna say Magnolia Parks. And I'm gonna say that because this was toxic. This is a toxic relationship, and I would be leery of letting my teenager read this and chance them thinking that the relationship between these two characters is normal and or acceptable. So yeah, this month gave me my first ever book that I would consider myself allergic to. The writing was not bad at all. I'm not saying that I'm allergic to Jessa Hastings, because I'm not. But this in particular was just toxic. So, I mean, pollen is toxic. I'm allergic to pollen. So, I'm allergic to this. Whatever this was. Next up is a bonus, and that is called Equinox, which is to find 2 books that are the exact number of pages and then talk about them. And this is what took so long. I looked and looked and looked, and I did find 2 books that are the exact same number of pages. And they're 2 books in a series. So I did pick another book that's within 3 pages, which I feel like is pretty dang close. So I will talk about these, but I'll talk about another book so that I'm not talking about 2 books in the same series, because that's a little boring, right? So the first one is Hooked on Murder. This was 273 pages long, not including the crochet pattern and the recipe in the back. Because all of the books I didn't count up until the very last page. I just counted until like the end of the story. I didn't count like the acknowledgments and things like that at the end. So anyways, 273 pages. This is the first book in the Crochet Mystery series by Betty Heckman, and it's called Hooked on Murder. This follows the story of Molly Pink, who is a middle-aged widow, and she is in charge of like the like community relations type things at a bookstore called Shed and Royal Books and More. And one of the things that they host at the bookstore is a crochet club. And one of the ladies leaves her stuff at the bookstore, and so she decides, being a good neighbor, she's going to take it to her home. But the lady is dead. And so since she stumbles across the body, she becomes basically the prime suspect. And so she has to find out who it was that killed her, so that she doesn't end up taking the fall for this crime that she did not commit. She also joins the crochet club called the Tarzana Hookers. And so you are learning about the characters in this crochet club as well, which becomes important as you go on into this series. So the second book that was 273 pages was Dead Men Don't Crochet. This is the second book in the Crochet Mystery series. And in this one, Molly is still part of the Tarzana Hookers. She has discovered the wonders of crochet, which is why I love these books. One of the members of the club is Sheila. And Sheila is very anxious. She has a lot of anxiety. She's very soft-spoken. One of the constants in the series is her making her stitches too tight because she's always so uptight and anxious. And they're constantly trying to help her loosen up her stitches. And it's one of the things, you know, if you crochet. So she is selling some of her shawls at this like boutique kind of store or whatever. The owner that she had the arrangement set up with died, and her sons, I think it was her sons that inherited the store. But anyways, Sheila's not getting paid what she's supposed to be getting paid for her shawls. And so she gathers up the hookers and they are going to go try to support her and help her to talk to this man, because he's not a very nice person, to talk to him about getting the money that she was promised for these shawls. However, while they're there, somebody kills him, and so Sheila is the prime suspect in the murder. And so again, Molly has to solve the murder to keep her friend from going to jail. And that is book number 2. Now, I got another book that was within 3 pages, and I feel like that's pretty good. And that is The Tale of Despereaux. This is another book that I have read to every single class I have ever taught. This is one of my favorite books of all time, especially children's books. My kids every year love this book. If you have ever watched the movie is totally different than the book. I think you should give the book a try. So you have Despereaux, who is a little tiny mouse who acts a little bit different from other mice. And one day he stumbles across a book in the library, and it's got a story of a knight. He rescues the princess, and he ends up meeting, he lives in a castle, so he ends up actually meeting the princess. So he ends up being sent to the dungeon, and he discovers there is a plot to kidnap the princess, so he has to escape and save her. The book follows the storyline of Despereaux, the Princess P, the rat rescuer, and the serving girl, Megri Sao. And it's just beautifully written. I love the way that it picks up at different points in time. So it's like it's going backwards and forwards in time, and it shows you the story progressing from all of these different characters, and then eventually all of these characters kind of come together at the end. And I think it's just a very very sweet book, and definitely would be one that you could read with the whole family. And then if you've never read it, it is a Newbery Medal winner, so yeah, it's a kid's book, but it's still a pretty good read, so I think you should check it out. That is it. Next up is, again, tagging people. And like I said, I'm going to tag some people in the reading confession or book confessions tag video, and I'm going to tag some people in this video. But again, if I did not tag you and you are a booktuber, you would like to do this tag, again, consider this your official tag, your it. And I would love to hear your answers to these prompts. And if you do end up doing it and using me as your tag, let me know, and I'll add your name down to the description as well, so people can check out your video and check out your channel. So that is it for today. I will see you again soon. I just finished my magical readathon yesterday, so now I have to take that month worth of clips and put them together in a video and do my May spread in my reading journal and do my April wrap up. So definitely a lot more things coming. Still not 100% moved into the house in the last month of school. My kids are taking their FAST test next week. So yeah, a lot of stuff going on, but I promise you it will not be too much longer before you are getting consistent content from me again, and I cannot wait for it. So if you have not already, please subscribe, stick around. I would love to share all of these wonderful books that I'm reading with you and talk to you about books. It's like my favorite thing in the world. So I hope to see you in my next video. Bye.